right, we're going to call the meeting to order. Welcome to the Planning and Development Committee meeting for Monday, June 22nd, 2016. We do have a quorum present, and the first order of business is approval of the regular minutes of June 13th, 2016. Is there a motion?
Move it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The meeting minutes are approved. And items for consideration, item P1 is an ordinance 82-016 granting major zoning relief for no additional parking spaces where 3 are required for a medical office at 922 Noyes Street. The ZBA and staff are recommending approval of the ordinance granting the major zoning relief for a medical office, evolution, spine, and sports therapy at 922 Noyes Street. The applicant has complied with all other zoning requirements and meets the standard for variations. In addition, suspension of the rules is being requested for introduction and action by the council this evening. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
A second? Yeah. Okay. Did we have any presentation on this? Or? Okay, and is there anyone who wanted to speak to this item? The applicant? Okay, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about it.
My name is Travis Aarons. I'm a chiropractor, so I'm looking at opening Evolution Spine and Sports Therapy at the 922 Noyes location that we're speaking about. What I'm looking for basically is to not have to add 3 additional parking spaces in that area where there are pretty much there's no space to do so. At Evolution Spine and Sports Therapy, not only chiropractic, I'm also going to do massage therapy, sports injury, things like that. That's pretty much what I've got to say about that. But really, the major issue is the parking, and that's what I'm looking to have taken care of.
Okay, and suspension of the rules was requested. Is there a you're going to be opening soon, or is there some urgency to it?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm hoping to open in the next month or so.
Okay. Thank you. Alderman Fisk.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about how many clients you expect at any single time, and how many people will be working with you? And
initially it'll just be myself. I will be doing everything as far as front office and treatment. So during that time, I wouldn't expect any more than, say, 2 patients at a time. And that would be essentially, say, a 10 to 15 minute overlap at very most. Otherwise, I will be spending anywhere from 30 minutes for existing patient to up to an hour with any new patient for examination and things like that. I will not double book at that time. So there would just be really 1 active patient at that time. When I do plan on expanding, I will bring in an office manager to essentially be there, do a lot of the front desk responsibilities. So there'll really be 1 other, and then maybe eventually adding a massage therapist. So no more than 3 employees, including myself, at any time. Mm-hmm. When that massage therapist is added, again, no more than, say, 2 to 3 to 4 patients possibly, with 2 of those patients being overlapping, waiting for their next appointment. Mm-hmm. So 2 active patients most at any given time.
okay, this is the former Coffee Lab location. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
And before that, I think it was a Lindsonvale
I'm not sure
shop. Does anyone remember? Okay.
Actually, I think that's what it was. Yeah.
And the nice thing about that was that not only were we earning sales tax revenue from that, but it brought people in on the street in the Noyes Street Business District. There are what used to be, I think, at least 4, if not 5 storefronts that are taken up by the Montessori school there. Mm-hmm. And so I'm reluctant to add another storefront that is not actively bringing in clientele that's turning over and energizing the street. Not that you're not energized. I'm sure you're making everyone feel better, but in terms of how storefronts are used, traditionally it's been the support businesses that have been up, like on the 2nd floor or not taking up a storefront. So for that reason, I'm going to oppose it, but I do wish you the best.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any more questions or any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
All right, and this will follow along at council after
Okay.
this
Thank
committee.
you.
Thank you. Item P2 is Ordinance 83-016, granting a special use for a resale establishment, Goodwill Store and Donation Center at 1916 Dempster Street. Zoning Board of Appeals and the city staff are recommending adoption of the ordinance, granting the special use for the resale establishment in the C1 Commercial District. The applicant has complied with all zoning requirements and meets all of the standards for a special use in the district. Staff recommends including additional conditions to deter any donations being dropped or left off after the business is closed, such as additional signage and a performance condition that if the activity is encountered, it could result in a revocation of the special use approval. And I think we do have a presentation on this, correct? Is a motion? Yeah.
Move approval.
Second? Second. All right. And Alderman Braithwaite, did you want to introduce the presentation?
Thank you very much, Alderman Wilson and members of the committee. So here to introduce the folks representing Goodwill. So we have Frank Schwab, who is representing the property owners, and we also have Paula Mitchell, who is the real estate director and also consultant to Goodwill. So a couple of concerns that I've received from members of council, and I've asked that the two representatives address. And the concerns are partially dealing with a resale business that we have here in Evanston. And so the concerns, again, is what's going to happen with the overall operations, how are they going to manage the drop-off of donation items. I've also asked them to talk a little bit about the job creation. One of the things that I'm definitely supporting is that it's going to bring an additional 40 to 50 jobs to Evanston, which I think is great. And then also I asked them to expound a little bit on the projected tax revenue as well as retail tax. And then finally address the issue of how does the addition of Goodwill, how does it fit into the retail mix that's currently at the plaza? So hopefully after listening to their questions that we will be able to address all the concerns of the council and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. My name is Paula Mitchell. I'm with Berengaria Development. We're real estate consultants for Goodwill. So I won't go through, this was actually a presentation we did for the zoning committee, but I won't go through the whole things, but I do want to talk about at least a couple points. And by all means, if you have questions, you can stop me. So we are seeking a special use for the resale establishment. I want to talk a teeny bit just about Goodwill. It's an organization that's over 100 years old. It is a nonprofit. It was actually founded on the premise of a hand up, not a handout. It's not affiliated with any religious organization, but it is a nonprofit. There's actually, a lot of people don't realize there's 164 independently owned and operated Goodwills. So this Goodwill is actually the largest in the country. It has 63 going on 64 stores. So it encompasses kind of the whole Chicagoland region, and then also southeastern Wisconsin and basically the Milwaukee region. It's all one territory, they call it. One of the benefits of Goodwill, actually, even though it is a resale shop, it prides itself on kind of acting and looking like a traditional retailer, but it actually has a couple of benefits over a traditional retailer. It brings both the shoppers and the donors into the center. So the traffic, while it's not double, because in reality we're hoping that the donors become shoppers, but it does bring a lot more traffic into the area. So given that, there are a lot of retailers, as you can see on this list, that come in after Goodwill is there and see it as a benefit. And this Goodwill in southeastern Wisconsin and Chicago is one of the better operators of the Goodwill and keeps their stores very clean and is very concerned with donations and making sure that's clean and tidy. So we've attracted a lot of these national tenants after we have already been in. We have hours just like any other traditional retailer. The only thing I'll mention is that we do, the donation entrance opens an hour before. So where the store opens generally at 9 or 10 on Sundays, the donation entrance opens an hour before. And they've found that that helps with people not leaving stuff, because then we're open earlier for people during their commuting time. A few pictures, I'll go through quickly, the insides of the stores. Like I said, they'll put over $1 million into this store. They really pride themselves. They want it to be a pleasant shopping experience. They don't want it to feel like a thrift store. And they've done surveys in the past, and over 70% of their shoppers are actually there just for the thrill of the find and the treasure hunt. And whereas most people think people are there for need, that's generally what they have not found, at least in this territory. Some more stores of their other stores. And the closest store to Evanston is Mundelein right now, which is obviously over 10 miles. We will be opening a store on Touhy Avenue west of 94 in the fall, so probably October sometime. I'll talk a teeny bit about the donation. As I said, they want to make sure, obviously, they have 63 stores. They really have not any municipality. We hear the concern everywhere that, we want to make sure there's no dumping. And honestly, this Goodwill has not had any concerns at all. They have their own private security cameras. They also post the ordinance of no dumping and that they will prosecute. And then they also they try and hire local managers. So then local managers are also out and about, and they'll go by the stores also. So they really go above and beyond to make sure that people don't dump, because the donations is what runs their retail, and they want to make sure people understand that they value their donations, and seeing donations out in the rain or whatever it may be is obviously not showing the proper respect for the donations. Certainly one of the other benefits to Goodwill is the green, and that's partly the shoppers have really grown in the last 10 years with people realizing that you can upcycle and recycle. They have a very large rewards program. And again, these are kind of the shoppers, as I mentioned. So I will... So as Alderman said, this store will employ 40 to 50 people. Several of those will be management positions that are at the same range as other retailers. But then they also, one of the benefits is they employ more people than a traditional retailer because the donations come on site here. So hopefully people will come and donate. The donations stay on site. They sort through them there. They check it for quality. And probably about 70% of the donations make it to the floor. The other 30% are either recycled or sold on the secondary market, which also helps to bring in revenues. And all of the retail sales funds the mission. And so having all those people kind of in the back of house to help sort and tag and hang the clothes helps to increase the employment for this area. And this is a lease situation, so we will be paying property tax and sales tax like any other retailer. Each store probably in this area, we estimate it probably recycles over 2 million pounds. Depending on the cost of recycling, we've figured that saves a municipality probably over $50,000 a year. These are just some of the partnerships that we've had in the area. They just started a new one actually with Northwestern University, which is kind of kicking off this fall. Goodwill definitely wants to become part of the fabric. They've worked with a lot of communities to have, whether it be electronic drives or clothing drives or kind of anything, they try and hire locally so that the managers and the community will get very involved in the community. These are some of the existing locations, but I will go, I know one of the concerns was kind of the circulation. So I will talk a little bit about the circulation. So this obviously is the new Valley Produce here. So there's entrances off of both Dempster and Dodge. One of the things that attracted us about this store was not only the demographics. Really, Goodwill is looking for kind of higher income and density so that they get the donations, because that's what makes a successful store. So they were very excited, obviously, to try and get a store in Evanston with both the density and the economics. And then the other thing we were excited about this store is that we could separate the main entrance from the donation entrance. So the main entrance will be somewhat similar to where the city Trends entrance is here. The space is being divided, and I know Frank Schwab is is having discussions right now with another tenant for this other space. But the main door will be here, and then through this existing arched opening, the donation canopy will be here. So as a car comes in, there's a sign on the side of the building, kind of higher up, that says donation entrance with an arrow. And people come in here. There will be a new stop sign here. One of the concerns at the planning and zoning was that you basically have people coming out of the donation entrance here and people coming in. So we now have a two-way stop here. One, as you enter, there'll be a crossbar on the ground plus a stop sign. And then there's another stop sign as you're leaving the donation canopy. Obviously, as you're donating, you stop. A lot of people turn off their car. Someone comes out and greets you, takes your items, hands you a receipt, and then you go on your way. So obviously your car is stopped at that point, but there is another stop sign that will say two-way stop.
I think there's a question. Alderman Rainey, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. This is my big concern, the drop-off. Does the car bringing the items for donation, do they leave the parking lot and go into that area? It used to be the Frank's, where they show the Christmas trees and the plants and things back in there. Do they leave the parking lot and go through that area? Or is it all on the driveway after Valley and before the dialysis center? Is it all on the parking lot?
No, it's not on the parking lot. That's why.
Could you show me
Yeah.
with your pointer?
So here, this is the main entrance, and then the donation, they will be going through the arched opening. So they'll be going where the main entrance to DaVita is.
And can you make a circle through there and then out behind the
Yeah.
row of stores that has the vet center and the dance center? Can you
Yes.
drive out that way?
Yeah, people won't be, this is a one-way entrance, so people will come in here, you'll have a stop sign, you'll kind of do a big circle, enter the donation canopy this way, and then you will leave either out here or behind the
You'll go back
plaza.
out, you'll go
Yeah.
back through the plaza.
Yeah.
I maintain that's going to be a problem. It's just going
We
to, I
have
don't understand why the cars can't enter behind Panino's and the dance center and the vet center and then come around.
They can.
They can't?
Yes.
They can.
They can. Let me
But
help
you're
with
not
this.
directing them to do that.
We're doing a couple things. We don't want them directed to the front door, and we don't want them clogging up the entry aisle in the center point. I think the next slide is actually the layout, which actually might have a little bit.
It's difficult to read.
No, sorry,
Yeah.
can't read that. But we were concerned about two things. One, we didn't want to clog the front door. We didn't want the pickup, nor does Goodwill want it anywhere near there. We wanted to make sure there was available stacking. Once you learn the pattern, you can come in either from Dempster, from Dodge, or, and I keep forgetting the other
I think
street.
it's Greenleaf. Or
I think it's Greenleaf.
Yeah.
You can come in from either one of those streets the back way if you want to make a donation, and
but-
we're purposely stacking them that way.
99% of everybody will not know that. It'll just be a crapshoot if they do that. I think this is just a mess waiting to happen, and you're going to have to reconfigure everything. The thought is sort of okay, but getting people in there and out, it's...
And is your concern the amount of people going
Well, I
there, or-
am at Valley, I am a major Valley fanatic. So I am at Valley 2-3 times a week. And the wonderful thing about Valley is sometimes it's hard to find a place to park. And that never used to happen. So I'm not worried about the parking at all, but there is some congestion. There are lots of people driving, lots of elderly people whose cars are being pulled up in front of Valley to get into the car with all their groceries. I believe your store is going to be hugely popular, and that's why I think there's going to be a problem.
Well, and I agree that if we had our donation entrance in the front, I think it would be a problem. And so that's why we're especially interested in this site, because the donation entrance is around the side with DaVita. And so
But
DaVita's traffic is obviously a lot less than near Valley. So you're right, we won't be able to say you have to enter off of Greenleaf, but I do think once people understand their circulation, a lot of people will be coming in off of Greenleaf or behind from Dodge. So there is, I apologize, this is a little difficult to read. This is the main entrance here, but we are proposing kind of multitude of signage so that when people come in, they can, it says donations through here, here's the stop sign, and then there's directional signage all over. So the stacking is actually along kind of the school district property back here. So it leaves a two-way drive and gets the stacking cars out of the way of whether it be DeVita or anyone leaving.
Could I ask another question, Chairman? Will people get out of their cars? I mean, they're going to have to get out of their cars, right, to open the trunk if they don't have...
Not necessarily. I mean, a
People,
Goodwill employee
porters
comes out.
will meet them?
Yeah,
and-
a Goodwill employee comes out, takes the items, hands them a receipt, and they could go on their way. So, ideally, people wouldn't have to get out. A lot of times people have a lot of stuff, and so then they have to get out. But it's a two-lane canopy here. So people will come in under this double or under the archway there. They'll kind of circle around and queue here against the school district property, and then come through here, and there's two aisles here, so that if someone does have a large car, someone else can pull to the side, and if they have one bag.
I'm just going to ask that you keep a close eye on this, because first thing, it's not as simple as you think it is. It's complicated, because I'm thinking of being a participant here, and I go there all the time, and I'm confused. Second of all, you got to keep an eye on it, because if people get frustrated, they're just not going to come back. They can go over someplace else and donate their clothes. So if you will keep an eye on it so that it can be reworked if things don't go as, the perfect plan you have, I think that would be important.
No, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, Goodwill wants donations to be easy. That's why they like going near grocery stores, because it makes it easy on your weekly trip. You can kind of pull around and drop off one bag rather than having, but they do actually monitor the traffic and will adjust the wayfinding signage if need be. They've done that on other sites. So it is something that they look at pretty closely, because they want it to be easy for people to donate.
Yes. I apologize. Frank Schwab, I'm the property manager and represent the owner in this case.
Oh, thank you. What types of items does the Goodwill store? It's not just clothes, is it?
No, it's clothes, hard goods, so like housewares, books is actually one of their larger sections, and they actually put the books by the front entrance. So one of the things we're doing here is actually opening up this and adding new storefront windows, and so they'll put the book department by the windows, so if people kind of want to browse or sit there, that's kind of up and gives some more traffic flow and some liveliness to the center.
Do you do furniture, or do you?
Yeah, I was going to say furniture also. They do not take, beds and, now they don't take large tube TVs, but they take generally most everything else.
Okay. And can you tell me a little bit about when people donate clothes, how those clothes are processed? Are they sent to the dry cleaners, or how do they end up? What happens to them between drop-off and going on the floor for sale?
Sure. They are not sent to the dry cleaners. Obviously, Goodwill is trying to make money to fund their mission, and so generally clothing here is $4.99 kind of for a typical item. So obviously, dry cleaning, that would pretty much take out any profit. But they do sort through it, and if something is really soiled or damaged, then it goes into either recycling or, as I mentioned, sold kind of on a secondary market. So they won't put anything out on the floor that is dirty or damaged or stained or anything like that. So that's part of the 40 to 50 jobs, is people sorting through and looking at the quality and looking at the condition of the item.
And so when people pull up with an item to donate, let's say it's a piece of furniture, and it doesn't meet the Goodwill standards, then those people are sent away with their item rejected, is that correct?
No, Goodwill will actually recycle. A lot of people don't realize that. So if I get baskets full of unmatched socks, don't throw them out. Take them to Goodwill and they will recycle them. They realize that, they're not going to put them on the floor, but they will recycle them. This store will have, there's an enclosed dock, and we will have a dumpster compactor in the back also for the items that can't be recycled or resold. But that's pretty rare that they actually they don't have to transfer out the dumpster that often, so they really try and recycle or resell.
Okay, and could you explain for me just one more time, how is it a franchise? Is that?
It's a territory is what they call it. So there's Goodwill International, which is kind of the umbrella. They are all nonprofits, and they all obviously share the same name. And the Goodwill International does give them certain, just like a franchise, they give them certain rules and regulations that they have to follow. But this one is just southeastern Wisconsin and Chicago. So all of the services are just people in this area. So last year they they helped over 70,000 people get jobs in this area.
But it's just one territory entity that owns
Yep.
or controls this?
Yeah, this is
Okay.
one territory that's between kind of Milwaukee and Chicago.
Okay.
And they helped 70,000 people just in those two areas.
Okay.
And the 63 stores that they have right now are just in those areas. There's 38 in Chicago, and then the remainder in Milwaukee area.
Okay, thank you.
And I think we had a question from Alderman Tennant.
You mentioned that there are a few management level jobs, but what is the bulk of the jobs are the people who sort through and organize and put things out on the floor. Are those part-time? Are they minimum wage? What is the typical job like?
Yeah, Goodwill, I mean, they pay standard retail rates, so and they compete for good people just like anyone else. So a lot of times it is a little bit more than minimum wage, but, a lot of the jobs are probably more in that $10 to $15. But it's not just the sorting, there are other jobs to help support the store that would be just like a traditional retailer.
And people can start and maybe move up to management or position like that?
Yeah, actually the woman who's the chief retail officer, she started in a store as a clerk, and she's been with Goodwill 30 years, and now she makes a significant salary and is the head of all the retail. So it's kind of a neat little story.
All right, thank you.
So the front of the building, like I said, we're adding new storefront to kind of add some activity to the center, and then around the back will be the covered donation entrance. So here is the donation center sign, and then we have another one kind of at the street level down here, and then people come through here. I think, let's see if that was, yep. I think unless there's any other questions, that was all that I had.
Okay, any other questions?
Well,
Alderman Rainey?
I'd just like to congratulate you on this. I think at first I wasn't so certain, because I really was upset when the dialysis center went in there. I thought this is just not a good retail mix. But I think you're right. There's all sorts of people coming to this, those going up and those who need to go down, et cetera. And to follow up on Alderman Tendam's question, it is very impressive that you pay your employees more than aldermen in the city of Evanston make. So you might see some of us over there looking for work.
Well, that is their mission, is to help people find work. So their mission statement is to help people with barriers to employment. So whether that's physical, or if they have a mental disability, or if they just are down on their luck and need help finding a job.
And I'm talking about you paying more when we get our raise in 2017. Not now, we're way below that, but you'll still be paying more.
You can come to a Goodwill Center, and maybe they'll help you figure out a way to ask for that.
We'll be shopping there, that's for sure. Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Did you want to speak now? No, you'd signed up at, so it will be also before the council for introduction, so it's your choice. Now, later, both. Right, we won't be discussing it in detail like this. Yes, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Brad Taylor, and I did sign up to make a few comments, so if I could go ahead and speak to you all just a little bit. I live just a block away on Darrow from Dempster Plaza. I've been there for about 3 years, and I, have been able to observe some trends in the neighborhood and see kind of what's going on as someone who tries to pay attention to the things that happen in our neighborhood. And while we very much appreciate that Valley Plaza or Valley Produce has gone into the plaza there and has brought in a very nice store, I think our overarching concern is that given the mix of stores that are going into this space, the largest thing that we're concerned about is the general perception of the area that will reach a tipping point or a sort of a critical mass and basically make it impossible for other mid and or high-end retailers to come into the same spot. I want to talk about a couple things, though, because I think perception is absolutely important and relevant to what we're talking about. Goodwill likes to position themselves as retail, but frankly, they're not retail. They are a secondhand resale shop, and I think it's an incredibly important distinction to make because they don't participate in the typical chain of manufacturing, wholesale, and retail. They're secondhand donations, and while they make every effort to keep a clean store, it's simply not the same experience for people who are looking for brand new goods, even if they are irregulars, which, stores like TJ Maxx and those sorts will sell. These are goods that are completely donated and priorly owned and worn. So I don't feel like that's a fair comparison. Per Goodwill's own slides, you'll see that many of the retail that goes in next to them is very much on the lower end of the spectrum. And on that corner already, we have basically all those low-end food stores like McDonald's and Burger King, Subway, Dunkin' Donuts. These are all at the very low end of the retail food scene. And so, again, any good builder or developer will tell you that perception is everything when it comes to a neighborhood or the facade of a building and what that brings to the community. I know that a couple things that I wanted to point out that is illustrative of the potential there. When Starbucks went into that corner, there was an overwhelmingly good response, so much that I don't think they even had time to have a grand opening because they were just too busy. There is demand there for other types of retail, including mid to high end. And myself and my girlfriend Corinne, we did take a moment to survey some of our neighbors and receive some email responses from them, and it seemed the consensus was we absolutely have nothing against Goodwill, and we believe they run a good organization. Our concern is that overall, is this plaza serving the community and the people that live very close to it? Is this the appropriate spot for something like a Goodwill? There's already another resale shop in there. There's a Discount Tree, which is, again, at the very bottom end of the retail. So the perception, we're afraid, is that if you have a large Goodwill store go into this plaza, what are we creating? What are the possibilities for any kind of other mix of decent retail, a real retail that could go into this plaza? Is there potential for something that is mid to high end, or are we basically closing those doors off and leaving no room for any interest from tenants at other ends of the spectrum? Being someone who likes to, go shop at Valley and maybe go shop at other types of grocery stores at different ends, I like having those opportunities. I like having the choice to go to some other places. And I feel like Evanston is a place that values diversity in its communities, and certainly in that neighborhood, we love the diversity of people there. But we feel like if we're continuing to court low-end retail and or resale shops, we are not providing a diversity of options for the community because all we're getting back is something that is at one end of the spectrum, one end of the strata when it comes to business and commercial there. So while we appreciate the diversity of the neighborhood, we don't feel like this trend toward resale shops and low-end retail is serving our desires and our needs, and it needs to go both ways for a community to feel like, you know, our needs and desires are being supported as well. I think Alderman Rainey actually pointed out another issue that we are concerned about is the traffic there. You know, we could see this being a very successful Goodwill store that may actually be better located somewhere else because, frankly, and I think you brought up a very good point, Alderman Rainey, that I know firsthand that traffic is going to go right down the front of that Valley Produce store. That's exactly where they're going to turn into, and they're going to turn off Dempster coming down that side, down past the dance center, where you have kids and families that are coming out of those stores. It's going to take a lot of signage and a lot of work to try to get people to go back behind the plaza and enter from those other entrances. So in sum, I think that there is demand for other kinds of retail there, and I don't think it's fair to the community to just settle on something. Granted, we all want that plaza to be filled. That would be great. It has sat, you know, empty for quite some time. But the truth is that once you go down a certain path and the perception is, oh, this is a plaza that is only retail and low-end retail shops, we fear that the ultimate end of that is going to be the perception that that's all that neighborhood and all that plaza is good for. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Aldermen and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. My name is Lisa Deacon, and I live at 1325 Wesley, and I'm also a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals. So I've had the opportunity to hear the presentation that you've heard this evening. Let me start by saying that we all have a shared interest in seeing Valley and Evanston Plaza be successful. I applaud their efforts that they've made recently on the facade improvements and the landscape improvements. I think overall it looks good, and I applaud those efforts. I also applaud the fact that Valley is a partner in the new Divvy bike share system, so they're working with the community to be a partner in the community. I recognize that, you know, many good people, including all of you, have worked very hard on Evanston Plaza, both before and after Dominic's exit. And Goodwill makes a very persuasive presentation for the case, including the environmental and the charitable impacts. I frankly think that Goodwill could be a good fit in Evanston, but I don't think it's a good fit in that center for some of the same reasons that were discussed here previously. I would ask you to consider the following. Evanston Plaza is an important neighborhood center in Evanston. It's located in the Dempster Street corridor, which is an important gateway to our community off I-94. Recent improvements and announcements such as Starbucks, Hartwood Center, and the Cobble House to replace the Chicken and Waffles helps to create a more vibrant retail node near Dodge and Dempster. The entrance of Valley Produce and the purchase of the plaza I thought was going to mark a new day for the center. And while Valley seems to be a strong anchor, we see that the plaza is continuing to struggle. Its tenant mix now includes discounters like Dollar Tree, as you noted, the dialysis center, and a federal health care center. My understanding is that upon the sale of the center to the current owner, remaining TIF dollars were made available for facade and other improvements to help reposition the center. This investment into the center by Evanston taxpayers cannot pay off if we continue to tenant the center with discounters and thrifts. The shopping center on Main Street operates as a discount center with tenants that include Food for Less, Sam's Club, and Marshall's. We also have similar offerings at Howard and Asbury. We need a range of shopping offerings to support the retail base in Evanston, not another discount center. The entrance of Goodwill Industries into the center takes us another step away from creating a vibrant retail center with quality national tenants. Despite what we heard this evening, I believe very strongly that to be true. While many of the tenanting decisions at the center are not in our purview, because Goodwill requires a special use permit to operate, we can therefore be more thoughtful in whether this use should be allowed. I would argue that the interests of the plaza owner are not aligned with the community interests in this case, and I would ask you to reconsider the special use permit. Thank you for the consideration.
Thank you. You did okay.
My name is Corinne Guerra, and I live at 1235 Darrow, which is a block away from the Evanston Shopping Center. I own a home there, and I've been there for 9 years. And I am a little concerned about, where the plaza is going and the stores that are coming into it. And my point is that I do want to make sure that it does fit the community and the residents that live very near it. I believe that this plaza is a little unique in the sense that it is in the middle of a very big residential community, and it's very close to residents. It's not just kind of a big box store, huge shopping plaza, but it is kind of a community plaza. And I think that as a homeowner and knowing other homeowners in the area very well, I wanted to find out if it's okay. There were a lot of people that were hoping to come tonight and couldn't, that were our neighbors, close neighbors, and colleagues of mine who actually voiced their opinions in emails to me. And is it okay if I kind of sum up some of the things that their concerns are?
Well, it's getting a little late, but I will point out one thing. This is
Sure.
for what's called introduction tonight. So at the council meeting, we're not going to be voting on it with finality. So it'll be what's called introduced, and it'll be presented for the final action in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Or the next regular meeting. So there would be plenty of time for anybody to call, write an email, come to the next meeting,
Okay.
whatever they'd like to do. But if you want to kind of just...
Okay, well, I can just kind of sum up what kind of some of the things that I asked them questions about the community and their thoughts. And I also asked them about, do they shop in the plaza? And how much do they shop in the plaza? And, the overwhelming consensus is that we're very excited that Valley came in. We're very excited that they worked on the facade and it looks beautiful and the landscaping. And it really kind of feels like a new day for that plaza and for our community. And I work in the mortgage industry in Evanston inside a real estate office. And I know that there are a lot of people that are looking for homes specifically in our area because they've seen some of the things that are happening in our area. The schools are very good. And I don't want that perception to be dissuade with the types of choices of other retail shops or resale shops that are going in there. The consensus is that we as a community want to support, and we do support that a lot of the people that I speak to, and us including, we shop at Valley Produce because we want to support them. And Valley doesn't always have the things that we're looking for, the higher quality meats and fishes and organic things. So we go there, we get the things that we can buy, and then we go elsewhere. We're doing our best to support the center, but we also want them to understand that diversity means not just discount, but it also means, supporting the other homeowners and residents in the area and their needs as well. And we highly support Valley, and we highly support the plaza itself, and we want it to thrive, which is why we're concerned about the types of stores that are going in there. And we just hope that they also think closely about where the future is for our community and what it means to us as homeowners and our property values and what we would like to do to spend our money and our time in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Fisk, I see you're late, but I was going to make a couple of comments that I was holding on to. Obviously, and this is generally my neighborhood too, and that's the grocery store I shop at. But for those of us who've been here since the Dominick's, before the store, before the Silo, the Toys R Us, a lot of things have come and gone from the shopping center. And personally, myself, some of my neighbors and friends, we're concerned that the shopping center not fail again. So the Valley Produce, it's the company that runs the grocery store bought the shopping center. And I think they invested somewhere in the neighborhood of $16 million in purchasing the property. That's a significant investment. And before they purchased it, I believe the last sale was at an auction because the shopping center had effectively failed. So we've gone from a point where the property is auctioned and a failure to somebody who's made a very significant commitment to the shopping center and to the neighborhood. Now, that said, they've got to make a living, right? It's a business. So they've made a big investment. I think they've been open for about a year or so. They were building it out before that. And a lot of times people will call me or write to me and they'll say, why aren't you getting this? Why aren't you getting that? Well, we don't get anything. People come to us. We're reactive. I talked to one of the one of my neighbors earlier today. If it was me, I'd have a guitar store and a bicycle shop and all the things that I love, right? And a bakery, but I don't get to pick. So I'm not choosing. It's kind of what's coming to us, and it's who's coming to them. I know that before the grocery store arrived, our staff was, I think it can perhaps characterize it as desperately looking for anchor tenants or interest in the shopping center. The other aldermen all participated in those efforts. Economic development staff worked very, very diligently to do that. The TJ Wright store did not succeed there, and that's I believe it's part of the Home Goods, TJ Maxx, Marshalls, and it's, I guess, at one end of the tier of that, and that didn't seem to be able to last. So it might not be what we would all pick, but they're going to pay the rent. And I think an important consideration right now is to make sure that the shopping center can succeed and that the neighborhood continues to improve. It's night and day. I mean, from 5 years ago, Starbucks opened across the street. I see you at the Starbucks. So it's good stuff. Like I said, it might not be what everybody would pick. As far as the traffic goes, I think maybe somebody will pull into that front part once, and once they figure out the other options, you just do the first drop off there, then you figure it out the next time you come through the other ways. But that's my 35 cents, and I think Alderman Fisk-Light was next.
Thank you. I wanted to just pick up on what you had said to our property manager, to our rental manager. Has there been any other interest expressed in the space, and what have you done proactively to try to find other tenants for this location?
Several things, if I may. Radio Shack filed bankruptcy right after Dominic's closed, and not because of Dominic's closure, but because of their sales model. We were fortunate enough to get AT&T to build out a brand new store build out. Next to that was a dry cleaner that was failing and had an environmental problem. We got Played Against Sports for that. Played Against Sports has a 60% new product sale, anywhere from 30 to 35% resale. So from our perspective, that was an upgrade from something that was rusted out and something we didn't want to continue with. City Trends was up. Their sales were dismal, and they would have closed down but for a negative rent. That negative rent means the owner supports them by giving them a subsidy even on operating cost. The Dollar Tree is national credit. They have been mobbed. They have done extremely well at this location, and they're delighted they picked it. We are very happy that they picked this location because we think it's an upgrade. The former owners rejected the dance center's expansion. We welcomed it with open arms. So the dance center doubled in size. It serves as a community meeting place. We think that's important with a grocery store and other shops because that gives you the volume of traffic so you can attract other tenants and people. We also believe that I'll take anybody's suggestion. If you want a real estate shop, if you want any other recommendations, we've spoken to everybody. And economic development has been very proactive, and we haven't had one referral that hasn't been responded to and dealt with appropriately. We would welcome a real estate office and a mortgage office. If you'd like to open one up, you can see me. I'd be delighted to put you in the former bank building at the hard corner. So I think that would be a great add to the center. Anyway, the other thing too is I do represent Valley at other locations. One of the things they do, and which makes them unique, if you want any item added to the store, you want a specialty item, you talk to the manager, he will get that item and have it on the shelves, so you don't have to go anywhere else. You can tell them what you want, and they will bring it in. They're not like a national, because they'll be proactive, and they'll bring the items that somebody will buy. Thank you very much.
Can I just follow up on that? Yeah. What are you doing? Yeah. What are you doing?
We have several tenants that are in the approval stages. I can't announce them because most of them I'm on a non-disclosure agreement. And as those go through, we will make the announcement and go from there. I'm not at liberty to do that at this point.
Any other tenants for this space?
Not for this space, but for the adjacent space.
Alderman Wilson, you pretty much gave my speech. And I think maybe some of newer people to Evanston, like in the past 10 years or so, do not know the curse that we don't know what it is, but there was one placed on the shopping center. It was fully occupied, going great guns, and then, I mean, there were bankruptcies, there was fraud, there were huge national chains that went out of business. So, and you also gave part of the speech about how Valley addressed the Dance Center Evanston. That, I believe, that having been there for 8 years with a grandchild, that would have been gone today if it hadn't been for Valley, because they could not open up another space. So this management team and ownership is probably bear none better than anything we've ever seen there before. Also, you know, Dollar Tree, that's the one you have there. That is the number one discount store in the United States of America. That is the number one. Check their stock price, you'll be mortified. You will not be able to afford it. Second of all, to keep referring to, I mean, I just think we're operating on some misconceptions. TJ Maxx is the number one retailer right now. Number one. They have Marshall's, Home Goods, and TJ Maxx. There's no comparison. This is a resale store. It's not a TJ Maxx, and it's nothing like it. So, you know, off-price retail is not necessarily a bad thing. I would kill to have a TJ Maxx at this location. However, I will remind those of us sitting here of the day in, I think, the fall one year when we heard that the other store was going out of business. What was the name of that? A.J. Wright. A.J. Wright, going out of business. Big empty store right next to where Valley is. The mayor, with a podium, with a huge crowd around her, stood there and appealed to TJ Maxx to please bring a home goods store to this location. You cannot dial up your wish list and get somebody to come in there. Several aldermen and I went on a road trip to get a restaurant there. I have been trying to get a restaurant in the outlet. Do not put a bank there. Do not put a real estate office. They bring nothing to the area. There needs to be a restaurant in that outlet. I know there's McDonald's and Starbucks, but there needs to be a sit-down family restaurant. There was a sit-down family restaurant. It was a buffet of some kind. I really believe that if we go on the search, we could get a restaurant there. It's a great restaurant space, and I think the reason why other places left right before you all is because the management was so horrible. Absolutely horrible, unapproachable, et cetera. So and let me just say one thing for the vet center. I'm sure that's a 20-year lease. It's neat, it's clean, it's a wonderful service, far beats out a dialysis center, although, I don't have anything against kidneys, but I just think that that center, with a couple of pops will be great. The sports place, Play It Again Sports, there isn't a person with children in this town who doesn't go there or who won't go there as soon as they find out it's there. I mean, people have been wanting that store in Evanston for years, and now it's here. So, I'm not crazy about the Goodwill thing, but I think it's going to be a good tenant, and I think this management company is going to keep a close eye on them. So I'm willing to take the chance on it.
Well, I really appreciate, as a relative newcomer sitting up here, I appreciate the very informative and persuasive review of the recent history about this shopping area, and it is very exciting to see some really positive business action going on there. I really admire the Goodwill mission and the job creation that it will be providing. The sustainability aspect of the mission is dear to my heart as well, and so I will be supporting this.
We had a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it will be introduced at council this evening. Thank you very much, everybody. The last item, barring discussion items or communications, would be P3 Ordinance 84016, amending the special use for a convenience store at 555 Howard Street in the B3 district. Staff is recommending approval of proposed ordinance 84016. The proposed ordinance amends the existing special use for the convenience store located to allow it to remain open until 1 a.m. instead of 10 p.m. Is there a motion? Is there a second? I believe the applicant's here to speak to it.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to let me speak. I really appreciate what the changes that I've seen on Howard Street. I've been the owner for this marathon station for the past 10 years. And, my name is Hafiz Yaqub. I'm the owner of the marathon station, 555 Howard Street. 6 years ago, I was practically told that I had to close the station at 7 p.m. And for the past 6 years, I've been working with Alderman Rainey, who's doing a fantastic job on Howard Street, and changes and this kind of new tenants that she's brought in the storefronts out there. And I've been working with the police department and having cameras and additional security there. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to open till 1 a.m. instead of 10 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey?
Well, this is probably a special use that has had more amendments and changes than any other one. They started out being 24 hours. The gas station is 24 hours, but the convenience store inside was 24 hours. Then things started to happen, and Howard Street was not as friendly as it is today, and things happen either because of their store or just because of the location. And so we kept cutting them back, and then we started increasing. They've been a member of the Howard Business Association since we started. They responded to all their landscaping requirements, and there have been no issues. And so, they complied with our requests and the neighbors' requests, and I think they're more than entitled to have their hours restored to 1 o'clock. And I'm really thrilled that they're there and run a clean operation and do a good job.
All right, any further discussion? There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the matter will be introduced at council. We will adjourn and resume at, let's go 25 after. Thank you. Well, is there a motion to adjourn? 8:25? Is there a second to the motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right. All in favor of adjourning? Aye. Any opposed?